Thank you for joining us today. This is the fourth and final episode of a multi-part series on this channel called Making a Strong Patent. This series will examine various aspects of what makes a patent a strong patent. In this specific episode, we will be talking about commercial viability. When you have a patent, you can license or sell your patent to others who may want to do the activity or make the item covered by your patent, if the idea is commercially viable. If it is not commercially viable, chances are no one will want to do that, and hence your patent may not be worth so much. Therefore, for a strong patent, we want to take a look at commercial viability. What exactly is a strong patent anyway? Well, a strong patent is one that issues with one or more claims that have strategic and/or economic value. And in order to have some economic value, it helps to have a patent that covers something that's commercially viable. So let's take a look at an example. Let's say I make an improvement to the well-known toothbrush. I discover as an inventor that instead of using plastic bristles, I make the bristles out of solid 14-karat gold. And the reason is, through my research, I discovered that the gold acts as an antibacterial agent and reduces tooth decay by 0.3%. And also, the toothbrush is now really expensive. So not a lot of bang for the buck, as they say, right? We improved dental hygiene only slightly, and now the toothbrush is ridiculously expensive. So, this idea is not commercially viable, and it's not likely to be commercially viable in the future. So even if I get a patent on this concept, no one is going to be interested in it. My patent probably won't be worth very much. Now this is a contrived example for illustration purposes, but let's look at a few considerations. Let's take a look at some factors of commercial viability. First, let's ask ourselves, does it make commercial sense right now to do this? If yes, then it's something we want to protect. But if the answer is no, don't give up just yet. Let's ask the next question. Does it make commercial sense within the next 5 years? This is important because patents often take a few years to get from the time you file an application to the time you actually get the patent. And maybe what doesn't make commercial sense right now today would make sense in a few years. As an example, consider the cost of computer memory. In 2010, if your invention required a 4 terabyte hard disk, that might be cost prohibitive. But 5 years later, by 2015, that probably would not be cost prohibitive because the state of the technology had improved to the point where a product that required a hard disk of that size would be commercially feasible. So if in 2010 you envisioned an invention that required a 4 terabyte hard disk, by the time your patent issued, the commercial viability would have improved. So don't just ask, does it make sense right now? Ask if it might make sense within a few years. And on that theme of looking into the future, another factor of viability is, will it address a problem that we don't know about yet or don't have yet? And let's take a look at an example of that. Let's take a ride on a time machine back to 2005. And this is what the typical mobile phone looked like back then. If you were lucky, it had a camera, maybe a calculator, and a calendar on board. But it typically did not have GPS-based navigation. However, if we were keeping up with industry trends, in 2005 we might be aware that touchscreen-enabled, internet-connected phones with GPS-based navigation capabilities are on the way. So in a few years, maybe people will want to use these as navigation devices in their cars. Let's invent a way to hold these devices in a car. And so if in 2005 we file such a patent application on a device holder, then by 2009 we may have something that is commercially viable and hence something that people want to use. So this is an example of a problem or need that arises based on changing conditions. In this case, the availability of smartphones with navigation apps and so forth. If we can file a patent application on something that people are going to want to be doing within a few years, then it could be a valuable concept to cover. The trick is looking at where industry and technology and social trends are heading and trying to get out in front of that by a few years. Since it typically takes a few years for a filed patent application to become an issued patent, looking 3 to 5 years ahead and trying to predict what will be happening can then help create valuable patents. So let's recap all the episodes of the Making a Strong Patent series. In episode 1, we talked about discoverability, which is how will I know my patent is being infringed? Because if I don't know it's being infringed, then I'm unlikely to be able to collect any damages from my patent. In episode 2, we talked about the consideration of who will infringe and where the infringement will take place. These are important considerations for how valuable a patent will be. In episode 3, we talked about the spirit of the invention. Basically, this episode addressed the issue of design around and steps that can be taken to help reduce the risk of design around. Finally, in this episode, the final episode, we talked about commercial viability. Are we patenting something that anyone would even care about? Hopefully, yes. So hopefully, these 4 episodes of this series give you some ideas to consider for your own patents and how to make them strong and increase the potential for high-value patents. Thanks again for checking out this episode, and if you enjoyed this content, then please like and subscribe. Thank you, and I will put a link to the other videos of the Making a Strong Patent series in the description below.